Welcome to Pillage Overload. That was not what I wanted to do, but hey, welcome back. Welcome to this week's episode of Pillage Overload. By the title that you may have seen when you click the Watch Us, we're going to be talking about marooning. You maroon.
Don't be a maroon.
Don't be a maroon.
Of course, my phone disappears on me.
Yeah, I hit that play button.
Yes. That's not the cup I want.
This is not the cup we're looking for. Play. There we go. All right. We're good.
That's the cup I'm looking for.
That's the cup you're looking for?
Welcome to Pillage Overload, everybody.
We
are live.
There's your video check.
And looking sexy as always.
Fantabulous. Live chat.
How about that?
Okay, cool. So welcome back. We're on week 5, so episode 5. Last month we really took a left turn and talked Captain Morgan a lot. And we said bye-bye to Captain Morgan.
Yeah, bye-bye.
We said
he's back up on the wall.
Yeah. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and goodbye. Adieu to you and you and you.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Okay, bye-bye.
That's a bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I'm going to unscrew my smile.
See ya.
What movie is that from?
I want to be ya.
So another huge thank you to our 100 subscribers. We're just over the moon by the fact.
We love you. We love all of you. Equally.
And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe!
Do it now. Hit the button. Ring the bell.
That's just one milestone. We got more this year. We got many
Things will
more.
happen if you do that. It's like the trifecta of stuff.
What is it? It's subscribe, like, and ring that bell.
Yeah. See?
It's actually a nice way to put
do those three
trifecta.
things. The trifecta.
Subscribe.
The YouTube
ring.
Trifecta.
Because, if you ring the bell, you'll get the ding, you'll get the email, you'll know when we're live, so I don't have to go
and we won't have to kill you.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yes. Metaphorically
speaking. Kill you with our love and affection. So, talking about bigger and better things this year, we are still looking at doing a big giveaway when we hit our 100 episode. Definitely.
Big. I'm giving things away.
Yeah, I know you do. Give a lot away. Really
aggravates
me.
Because it's fun.
Giving shit away. No, don't give it away. Make them pay for it.
This time we're giving it away.
So this summer, I think what we're going to do is call anything that we come on live with as specials, because it's not going to be consistent like our episodes for this time of year and the end of the year. So we'll say the 100 episodes will be in our fall season. So we're in season 8. We'll call fall season 9, and our summer will be our specials. Still kind of throwing it at. We're still going to get a feel of how we want to do Pillage Overload because this is a whole new venue for us. We're kind of changing the feel of it. So,
well, we got to be special in the summer because we're doing events with Loose Cannon Company and we're being pirates and stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a little much to be doing this with that. So I think more of our specials. Ahoy, Damon!
Mr. Tobin.
Davy Vane is on. So
drink to that. I'll drink that twice.
So this summer,
how about that?
When we're talking about specials, we're thinking of when we're at events, grabbing maybe a crewmate or two, getting a setup, doing an interview, talking certain pieces.
Yeah, Damon.
Yeah, Damon went back on the show again. You see some people that you YouTubers may not have seen unless you go back and see some of our earlier episodes that I posted on the channel.
Yeah, we did some interviews with different crew members. So
we did with a good chunk of our crew members.
Yeah, we'll try and do that again over the summer. So be paying attention.
And not just interviews with the crew, but maybe talking particular things of camp. And so I got the notification early. Yes, I would love to join you guys again.
Yeah.
So
we'd love to have you.
We got a volunteer already. So that's something we're definitely looking forward to summer. And again, we're playing around with the idea with us being on YouTube now and keeping it interesting and fun. If you sign up to Ahoy, Glenster! If
Leonard.
live, maybe live.
It may be live, it may be recorded.
It'll depend on the signal of the area we are in. Because if Smith Mountain Lake, like we tried doing 2 years ago, was a disaster.
Yeah. A lot of the places we go don't have a very good signal, so live shows, not so much.
Speaking of live shows, we're actually hitting our 3-year mark of Pillage Overload. 3 years. We started in 2020 at actually Polar Plunge with our crew. And that was, I was going to say on this day, it wasn't. 4 years ago. Oh, hi, Chad. Chad Cookson.
Hi, Chad. Welcome aboard.
4 years ago today is the first time we actually went and started doing Polar Plunge. I'm kind of mixing with things right now. Went and did Polar Plunge, and we're about to go this weekend. But Polar Plunge 3 years ago is our first episode of Pillage Overload. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah.
Things that make it go boom, boom, boom. Dude,
bada bing, bada
boom, right?
Big bada boom.
So, which, by the way, again, is this weekend. Polar Plunge.
Yes.
Link will be in the comments. Donate. Awesome cause, Special Olympics. We do it every year. Scream up and down, say donate. We go walking. We freeze our ever-loving butts off. And guess what? This year is going to be extra.
It's going to be extra cold. So, yay.
What do they say?
Can't wait for that.
What they say? What is it supposed to be?
It's supposed to be like 35 degrees as for the high Saturday, which is when we're doing it in Virginia Beach. On the beach, where there's going to be a 10 to 20 mile per hour wind also. So that should be fun.
Yeah. Thank God we're not going in the water. Yeah. I bet you the water's
Thank God we're going to have lots of things to keep us warm.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the first time the water was warmer than the outside, but we're the smart ones. Hello, Bo. Mr. David Vane, the topic of tonight is, I will get to that in a second. We still got to do a little housekeeping here, buddy. We got new products also coming up to the store. A couple weeks ago, we told you about shirts. We had a couple vests. I got another couple vests coming up, including a historical one like what Ballast and I are wearing. And a new game. It's called the Hounds and Hares. And Alcuries. I'm probably saying it wrong.
Yeah, so it's all on one board, and it comes with, I guess you would say, the game pieces, and a bag, and it's really cool. So it's basically one board with 2 games on it.
Fox and Geese. Yeah, there's a lot of different names I've heard about. Fox and Geese, Hounds and Hares. The Soldier, I was doing some research on it. The games are actually from the 13th century.
Yeah,
which I thought
we'll
was
have that up
interesting.
On our website soon.
Yeah. So those are some new stuff coming probably in the next week or so. Like I said, we're trying to keep stuff new and fresh for to save us.
Trying to be fresh.
Fresh?
That's not fresh.
7-man Morris. When you coming to visit me in Florida, it was 85 today. You know what? Shut up.
Hey, look.
Stop rubbing it in.
Hey, we wanted to see you when we came. When was it?
Cedar Key?
Yeah, was that?
Oh, yeah. We were going to try to squeeze over to St. Augustine for the Black Bear Bowl when we were at Cedar Key.
If they wouldn't have had them back to back, we would have.
That's another one.
We would have come and crashed the Blackbeard Ball in St. Augustine.
But that was like 3 hours there, party, 3 hours back, then get up and run.
Would have been too much.
And then gotten yelled at by Mr. David Vane running the cannon line. Yeah.
Speaking of that, he is here, and he has told me that we are looking into going back to Cedar Key next year. So we'll be there. If you're going to be there, hopefully it won't be
next year for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's this year, but yeah. So. Yeah, we're going to make sure we announce it more. And that's not to say we're not going to try getting down there again this year. There's a lot of things in the cards we want to do this year. A lot of traveling, hopefully getting more events. For Parlay 8, we're actually going to be vending at 2 events this year. And I'm excited because we get to be with the encampment with our crew. I find that's more... I don't know. There was really good flow when we did it at Harvest Fair because we were there. We had all our stuff, so we were able to talk about like the flags that Ballast does and the clothing I did. And then after they got to feel that, because we do the historic stuff with that, they were able to go in a camp or
And
vice versa and just get the whole
see it in
kind of
use.
thing. But you know, we don't. That's probably why we suck at being salespeople. We don't push for our stuff.
Yeah, I was in retail sales for a little while, and it's difficult. You know, and it's a little more difficult with pirate gear because the general public isn't really. You know, I worked for Hard Rock Cafe, so when people came into Hard Rock, they knew what they were getting into, and some of the people that are interested in the stuff don't really know a whole lot about what they're getting into, so you gotta get a little more in depth with them, so that makes the sales a little bit more difficult.
But sometimes it also brings the idea of the sales out. But we also get a lot of lip service, which is fine.
Yeah.
We recognize that, and that's why we do a lot of custom work. We do this. We're going to be doing some other things. I guess Ballast is going to start coming up with some woodworking plans and other things. So there's a lot in the cards.
Things are in the weights.
We're excited about what's coming up for us in the year and try to keep things ever evolving with the world around us. Dun, dun, dun. And speaking of being all flexible and resilient and having that survivor mode, that's not really what we're doing. But tonight's topic, Mr. Tobin was asking about is Alexander Selkirk, because of this day in history, on February 2nd, 1709, he was found on an abandoned island after being there for 4 years and 4 months. So tonight, this is the story of Alexander Selkirk.
The man, the myth, the adventure.
And then we'll conclude it next week. So, I'm sorry. One more thing before we jump into that. Other new, I'm running away. Robinson Crusoe, maybe.
Was he?
So one more thing I forgot to say is new episodes of Between the Bulkheads. We'll be doing that as well. Which is us talking about a subject really in depth without trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Husband and wife want to throw shit at each other across the bar, you know, that kind of thing.
Those won't be live. Those will be recorded, but there'll be episodes where we just kind of, it's a little more personal, and
we do it a lot in the
talking and having conversations.
Yeah, we do it a lot in the mornings when we're discussing topics for Pillage Overload. And sometimes the topics we get into, you guys are probably interested, but it's not so much for this.
It'll be more podcast style than live stream style.
All right, like now you're stealing my line.
What?
My movie line in the night. Wilson! Thanks! Damn live chat. So yes, Alexander Selkirk. The man was born 1680. Some records say a different date, but when he did his disposition about being marooned, he stated 1680. Yeah. And he was the only, he was the seventh son out of 7 siblings.
Seventh son of a seventh son?
Yeah, and 7th sailor.
Yeah.
And no sisters. No sisters.
And he was a wild man when he was growing up. So he got himself in a little trouble as a teenager.
Apparently he was a brawler, but the man was a Scot. I mean, come on now. Those Irish and those Scots. He liked to go fisticuffs. Like, come on, put him up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were just joking about my dad being Tin Man, so it's been a long week. Be ready for more quotes coming through tonight. So yeah, he had no sisters, big brawler, which leads into some of the other stuff that we'll be talking about. But
he got himself in trouble with the church also. So
don't worry, he's a Scot. I'm not talking bad about the Scots. He's a Scot.
That led him into the life at sea.
Yeah.
Really, because he skipped out on when he was supposed to go in front of the church to get punished.
Oh yeah,
And he
yeah.
never showed up because he was already on board his
He
ship,
ran away.
sailing away.
Yeah, it was one of those where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there next week," and then he kept putting it off. And then when they when they really went to go get him, he was on the ship. He's like, "I like to watch this opportunity to wave as they go on by."
Yeah.
So that was the leading to him marooning. He left England in 1703, so he was about 23? Yeah, 23 years old. He would be but a young buck, a young lad, a young Scots.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. Oh, apparently, the reason why he was going to the church is because he struck his father. Is that what it was? He did something. He fought somebody. He fought the wrong person, is what he did.
Yeah. Well, he was just he was bad in church, as from what I understand. He wasn't.
He didn't give his 10% contribution.
Yeah. Well, he actually contributed a little bit too much in the wrong way.
Apparently. And his daddy was a shoemaker.
Leather, in the leatherworking, tanning, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's what. Yeah. I mean, and he needs a cobbler right now for his shoes. Speaking of which,
random
squirrel, sting.
So yeah, so got himself in trouble. Got aboard. What is the Cirque Ports?
Cinque Ports.
I don't. Cinque Ports.
Cinque Ports.
Cinque Ports. I think was the name of the ship.
He was part of two ships, the St. George and Cinque Ports, that William Dampier, if you guys have ever been on any of the episodes, William Dampier was really big into documenting all these islands. Actually think of Master Commander, the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
How he wanted to go and document. That was William Dampier. That was kind of the same idea as that. So William Dampier was actually leading this expedition, and this was a private funded expedition because the Royal Navy already said, "You suck as a captain. You cannot captain any more ships." So he went to a private funded and became captain again. I mean, and obviously he still sucked as a captain.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't really.
He didn't have that captain quality. No, he was.
Was he?
Yeah, the St. George he was.
Okay.
When this whole situation happened.
He just wasn't a captain of the ship that
the Duke later on.
Selkirk was on.
No,
Selkirk was on the other ship.
Correct. He was on St. George. Selkirk was on Cinque Ports, and Selkirk's captain was Captain Strudling, and Selkirk was ship's mate. He was ship's mate.
Yeah, Selkirk was a
very smart man.
Yeah.
Like very, very smart with navigation and those Scots.
By the time he ended up with this expedition, he had been a sailor for a little while, so he had a lot of experience, which is why he was put in the position he was.
Yep. So and they were so pissed off with Dampier during this expedition that Stradlin and those guys basically they mutinied and said, "We're done with you, Dampier." And then they went and tried to do their own thing. And during that progress, they stopped on an island called Juan Fernandez in the Pacific Ocean to do their careening and all their fun stuff. And it was actually, they knew about this island because they did it earlier in the expedition with Dampier, like both ships were there. So that's how they found that ship again.
Yeah, because they were on so this island is on the west side of South America.
Pacific Ocean side.
Yes, the Pacific side. So
who goes to the Pacific side?
Crazy folk. That's who. Because they're well, there were ports over there. They raided some stuff while they were over there. That's just how they ended up there. Yeah, that's why they were there. So they weren't super successful, but they held their own and ended up on this island to do their repairs.
I mean, you always hear about
over there doing all that.
Caribbean. You hear about Florida. You hear about Cooba. Pacific Ocean.
Cooba.
Cooba.
What's Cooba?
Cuba. Cuba.
Yeah.
Cuba. Cuba.
What was the other name for the island?
Cuba.
Just
You're not.
Cuba.
It's
Yeah,
not,
I'm
and
like
it's not the island. It's the city, and it's Cuba. I'm not. You're not. No.
Oh, I'm not gonna get
You're
you
not.
to try and
No.
say it.
Bite me. You're a jerk.
Huh?
Are we going down that road again tonight? Are we going
Me
down that
picking-
road again
me
tonight?
picking on you? Maybe. Maybe.
Don't make me do sucky face again.
No, don't.
Apparently, no one
don't do
else
that
liked it
again.
either. If you want to know what I'm talking about and you're friends with him on Facebook, go look at a reel. Actually, I think it got shared to the Parlay page. So,
It only gained like 20 more views after that.
yeah, because it was that bad, apparently, me being a dork.
Yeah.
I
digress.
I over dorked it on that one.
You were a dork and a half.
Dork and a half. So yeah, they were on that island, and apparently because you know that with them being in, and this was a brand new ship. I should just put that out there.
When they left,
it was a brand new ship. So while they were there careening, it was so damaged and holy from the worms that were over there. And there's a joke that I don't know if Selkirk made it or somebody else saying that the worms were bigger over on the Pacific Ocean side. And I was like, what?
Come to the Pacific. The worms are
got bigger here. Worms. So obviously Selkirk was like that, and they were gonna say we were done. They were gonna start sailing home. They're like, yeah, no. So he tried to rouse the crew to say, no, we need to stay here for more repairs before going out to sea. And the account I read was that Selkirk actually struck Stradling, and Stradling said, all right, you're gone. We're going to burn you.
Because there are more than one account of how this went down.
Yeah. You were watching the other ones.
Yeah, what was the other one? The one was that he begged to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And the captain Stradling would not let him. And one version, he said, well, screw you guys, I'm out of here. And they gave him supplies and he stayed.
And the other one was that he kept saying, let me stay. And Stradling, who thought he was a pain in the ass to begin with because he was such a brawler, stuck him on, said, okay, fine.
See ya.
And then at the prospect of being alone, not so much of being on terra firma, he oh my god,
what now?
Big worms because they shrink in the cold. Yeah, the worms are bigger.
They're still big. They just shrink in the cold.
It did snow today. I digress. So he the Korean. So he got put on the island. He was like, all right, fine, we'll put you on. And he's like, no, never mind. Let me stay. No, let me stay. You know, Gone with the Wind type of.
You couldn't help yourself, could you?
So he got left.
So they gave him some supplies. He had
actually
they left some weapons. They left him
good, decent supplies. If you think
they left him a rifle, some black powder, clothing,
a pot.
I think an axe,
and his knife, some food, some water, rum, obviously. Worms not good for the wood.
So they did leave him with some supplies.
They're having a conversation about worms over here. I want to keep talking about this.
He was on the island.
Yeah, Bible and bedding. Yep, those are the other two things.
Yes, the Bible, because he actually read the Bible a lot, and supposedly that
helped his sanity. They said.
Supposedly that helped him through the time that he spent there.
I think anybody who is a person of faith and religion will go into whatever faith and religion they follow and really hold hard onto that to be able to keep their sanity. So that was October of 1704 when he was officially marooned and saw everybody go and sail off.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
And a lot of it was obviously the biggest thing of any solidarity is just dealing with yourself. And that was a big thing that they talk about Alexander Selkirk. And when his story started coming out, that it was one of the first survival stories, and that's what made him so interesting as we lead on with the conversation. But him having a lot of that stuff, what was it? They were talking about. He talked about what he ate a lot. I mean, there was goats on the island from when the Spanish were dropping goats off. Yeah. He said that he stayed away from some fish. I don't know if it was crawfish or another fish because it ruined his bowel movement.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Well, so when he was first there, he was on the beach, and then the seals came. Not the Navy SEALs. The real SEALs came up onto the beach and took over the beach.
Breeding season.
Yeah, to breed. And so he moved inland. So while he was on the beach is when he was eating the lobster and the fish and all that. And then after the SEALs came, he moved inland was when he started eating the goats. Finding the goats and making, because his clothing wore out after a while.
4 years, 4 months.
So he had at least the goat skins.
Most you can't live with. You don't have clothing for 6 months anymore.
Yeah. Well, he was on a tropical island, so it wasn't like he was freezing to death. But
which is good. He was probably in the perfect. They said it was mild winters for that time frame.
Yeah,
I want to go on that island.
It's on the same
latitude.
Yeah, as like Hawaii. So
Hawaii.
The weather was.
Who wants to go to Hawaii with me?
The weather was nice. It was very nice.
And then better traces of food. Yes. And then that's also where he made 2 huts.
Yes. One hut he kept his supplies and things in, and the other hut was where he had his bed and where he slept.
Yeah,
which was smart.
Yeah, keeping the kitchen away from where you sleep.
Yeah. Apparently the rats got really bad, so he actually
cooking up.
He had feral cats that he
fed and made friends with.
Yeah, made friends with, and they took care of the rat problem for him because apparently it got really bad.
He was a crazy cat man, but I mean, if you're not with,
is kind of wild that I mean, that there were enough cats on the island, or any cats at all.
I would say you get 2 cats on there; those things fornicate like bunnies. I mean, I remember when Mom had that one cat, and that thing when she was in heat screamed like bloody murder, and found a way to get loose to find some.
But you're not on a tropical island in the middle of nowhere either.
Well, a lot of that was the Spanish when they were coming aboard and bringing the animals.
Probably how they ended up there. Yeah.
Same thing with
because this island was deserted, but it wasn't. It was uninhabited. Let's put it uninhabited would be a better term to use. But it wasn't like people didn't stop there because obviously the crew that Selkirk was with stopped there to do their things. So people did come to this island. Obviously, that's how we know the cats got there. It's probably how the goats got there.
Yeah,
also
Spanish. And the Spanish explored twice. Actually came to the island twice. One time, Selkirk said that he was up in a tree and they were pissing at the bottom of the tree that he was hiding up.
Narrowly.
Yeah, he got away. He really made sure that he was nowhere near it. He didn't want to risk getting caught by the Spanish because his big concern was that if he was caught, he was going to get in prison. He was going to get tortured, sent to some kind of camp where he's going to work himself to death and.
Because this was the time that the English were at war with the Spanish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we just entered. Is this a 7-year war we're entering?
Spanish secession.
I believe you're right. I believe
it was going on at the time.
My book's in the other room. My book of all the wars. My list.
The war book.
I call it, you got Indiana Jones with the Holy Grail. I call it my pirate grail.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of because there were a lot of wars going on in the beginning of the 1700s.
Like we talked about with Captain Morgan when he got over to England and why he wasn't immediately arrested because they were in the third Anglo-Dutch War. Third. Can't you people play nice? Play together, play nice. For crying out loud.
No more wars for you.
No more wars. Cake or death. Cake, please. There's no more cake. Well, then, or. War of Spanish Succession. Yes. So, yeah, that's what was going on. But,
things were happening.
And then on February 2nd, 1709, today, the crew, an expedition with Woodes Rogers. You guys might
How crazy
know
is that
name.
So, this is where
on the West Coast.
The craziness of this whole
This is where we start talking about the connections I keep talking about.
He was on the expedition with Dampier, right? So another famous privateer. And then they basically abandoned Dampier, and he gets abandoned, and then Woodes Rogers is with the expedition that rescues him.
And guess who's with Woodes Rogers?
Which is even
Dampier.
Yeah.
Dampier was shit. What did I say he was?
Yeah, because if you remember in the story, Stradling's crew parted ways with Dampier. Yeah. So Dampier most likely had no idea that Selkirk had basically been left on the island alone.
Yeah, because
he shows up and he's like, "What are you doing here?"
He had been there for so long that he wasn't speaking coherently. Like his English was very.
He was sighted.
He was sighted.
He was sighted to see him.
He was very broken with his English, and he looked like a wild man. And he was 28 at the time. But
so if you think of the movie Castaway, that's probably
what he looked like.
Similar to what he was.
Make fire!
Ah! I have made fire.
I am God. Maybe not so much like that. They said that he was very lean. He was very alert, very energetic. He was running circles around all these guys. And then they looked like Willis after a pirate weekend.
Suffer without the gut.
Yeah. And the hangover.
And see, he'd know if we were making jokes about him if he was here watching us.
Right. Except not fat.
Same thing.
Which is interesting that we said about drinking, because when they first got Alexander Selkirk, they tried to give him some grog on the ship and he refused to drink it because he had been drinking water for so long that he knew that if he drank that straight, and when you go from one diet and you completely change, it's kind of like with dogs. That's why when you're on one diet, and you have to be very careful when you change them because they're very sensitive.
It's a shock to the system.
Yeah. So he didn't touch any of that. But when he did start going back to the sailors' food and their diet, that's the word I was looking for, diet. It was an immediate change. You could see that the alertness kind of dulled down, and
fat and lazy again.
Yeah, fat and lazy again. So it all basically went downhill after.
Because really, by the time he made it back to England, it took a little while. He ended up finding out that the ship, that Stradling's ship, did end up sinking, which is crazy.
Water is a shock to Willis' system.
Yeah. So
that's insane. So no one knew about it because it was right after he left.
Yeah, the Cinque Ports actually sank. Not long.
The Cinque Ports sank.
Sank.
The Cinque sank.
Only a couple hundred miles away from the island.
Because they said it was near Lima,
Peru, I think.
Yeah, that's where they ended up taking them.
Yeah, the Spanish got a hold of them
and put them
in prison. So if he wouldn't have been, if he wouldn't have stayed on the island, he would have ended up in prison in Peru with the rest of Stradling's
And
crew.
they said that maybe a dozen survived, and Stradling being one
Out
of
of
them.
like 60 something
Mhm.
crew members.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that-
either he would have died, or he would have ended up or he would have been in prison.
The irony of that is just
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
You think that was probably the worst decision of your life, and then you realize it's the best decision of your life.
Yeah, imagine the
relief,
that and the feeling of like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Not retribution. I know what you're talking about. Where I am right.
Yeah, like knowing you were right all along and finding out that this happened, and
Oh, it's gonna bug me now because that was exactly.
I can't think of it
because
either.
it's exactly how I felt when I proved that I didn't.
Just proving you're right. Imagine when he heard that he had been right all along about that, and
validation. He was validated.
Yes,
validation. I knew I was gonna get it.
Being validated, I can imagine that was pretty
validating.
Yeah, it could have been that.
I mean, he survived, so
yeah.
I mean, seriously,
he ends up back in England, and actually,
he didn't get back until 1711, though. It was another 2 years.
He went around with Woodes Rogers and helped them out with their expedition,
Mm-hmm.
and then when they got back to England, he basically, once his story got out and his story was told, he became a fairly famous dude.
Yeah, and that was from Woodes Rogers' journals. Woodes Rogers published his journals.
Because we all know that Woodes Rogers kept
pretty good
journals.
Yeah.
And, he wrote the books and all that. And
well, everybody knew the journals were from the books.
Yeah. So he actually was a part of, from what I understand, he had a section in one of his books that he talked about.
Oh, it was dedicated.
Selkirk.
Yep, it was dedicated. And what he wanted to point out was the dedication and the resilience of him, and how he kept his mind fresh, and the will to live, and not kind of just say, no, I'm done.
He didn't have his will to live sucked out of him.
Sucking my will to live, man.
Sucking my will to live.
Sucking my will to live.
So yeah, and
we didn't mention even about the whole thing with Dampier. So Dampier was on the mission with Woodes Rogers, and then when Selkirk was picked up, he specifically asked of who were the officers, because apparently he hated Dampier so much he would have rather stayed on the island, which I find absolutely amazing, because Dampier's not the reason he was on the damn island.
Yeah,
it was Stradling. Well,
Dampier was probably the reason he was on Stradling's ship and not Dampier's ship when they originally left.
He was always on Stradling's ship, but yeah. To your point, how bad the expedition had gone.
But what I'm saying is, why was he on Stradling's ship? Probably because he didn't like Dampier.
I don't know if he didn't like him at the beginning, or it was just because the whole expedition was such a failure.
He may have come to hate him because the expedition was going so bad.
Yeah, and no money or nothing.
Stradling's ship to leave.
He didn't miss his.
He was probably a big reason that Stradling's ship abandoned Dampier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's more likely.
Yeah, and then but that's why he also probably didn't like Dampier. But anyway, but that was
we digress
again. So he had to confirm that Dampier wasn't captain before he decided to go on a ship. That was what I was trying to get at. Yeah. You hate somebody so much
that you want to stay abandoned by yourself on a tropical island.
But Dampier, that's a mate, who recognized him, is the one that suggested to Woodes Rogers, saying, "Hey, he's a good dude. He's like a really good dude." So Rogers made him mate of the Duke, because they were on the Duke and the Duchess and some other ships. So he made him the mate of the Duke.
First mate.
Yes. Yep. And then after they captured that one ship off of Lima, Freudian slip. They didn't make him captain. I think they made him first mate as that as well.
Yeah.
It was a really good navigator. They said they went back to the island that, and I don't know if it's true, I haven't really dug into this much. They said current archaeologists went back to the island, found the area where his huts could have been, and looked and found navigational tools
that they
in the
think
dirt. They're
were
his. Because he was navigator and he had those tools because it was very well documented. He had some navigational tools. Clothes, bedding,
I'm reading
pistol,
it right
gunpowder, bullets, hatchet, knife, pot, a pot in which to boil good water, a Bible, a book of prayers, his navigation instruments, and charts on how to read the sea, 2 pounds of tobacco, a single flask of rum, bits of food for 3 meals. That's what he was left with. Yeah, 2 pounds of tobacco. I mean, you're set to start at least there. At least you're not starting.
Yeah, it's a good start. That's for sure.
But yeah, he was disappointed, and then when he got returned, there was a big conflict with the systems on payout from that voyage. So not everybody got paid out right away, but the thought was that any of the officers would have gotten paid up front while they're waiting for everything to settle. So I think he said he's worth 800 pounds, but he was happier without a penny than what he was with 800 pounds. So that was interesting.
It wasn't about the money.
Got married. Eventually went back to Scotland. He was from the Lower Largo, and that's where he went back home.
Yep. And of course got in trouble again.
Yeah. And then ran away again.
Joined the Royal Navy.
Uh-huh. And then I think was he on the Navy with the Whalberg? Whalen? I'm trying to remember the name of the ship he was on. It was some WHA.
Somebody Google it.
Google it. Let me know.
Yeah.
Selkirk, what ship he was on when he died.
What ship did he command when he was in the Royal Navy?
Went on several voyages. He went back to the coast of South America, fought the Spanish. Woo-hoo.
This dude was crazy, man.
Damn those mosquitoes, yellow fever. Yeah, and that's what got the man when he was on that ship, Whalebird.
Yeah. After all he had been through.
For 4.5 years almost on an island. Surviving rats, starvation, mind going awry.
And he wasn't even on land.
No, he was on the ship, and yellow fever tore through the crew, and he died of yellow fever in 1721 at the age of 45. And he is buried back in Scotland. And if you know what they call it, yellow fever, we learned this at the walking tour. Pirates of the French Quarter.
Yeah, I don't know.
You remember why they call it yellow fever? Because your body swelled up and you turned yellow.
Yeah, that I knew.
See, you knew it.
Yeah.
That's all I meant. So, yeah. It's just, it's like the irony. The man is just full of ironies.
Yeah.
Irony and
pretty crazy.
Jaundice. That is not the ship he was on.
No, that's another disease that you turn yellow.
Oh. I don't know what that.
That's when your liver ain't working right, I think.
You mean after drinking a lot?
Oh, I mean, like your liver is failing. Like, oh no, it's not working.
Yeah. I think that's called alcoholism. Just saying. That might be what it is from yellow fever. Okay, I got you.
Sure.
Google says, Weymouth, thank you. Yes. I knew it starts with a W and there was a Y in there. W-E-Y-M-O-U.
Who was that?
Glenn.
Oh. Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, Weymouth. Knew it was Weymouth. Yeah, well, he was on the Weymouth.
Yeah.
So they have a plaque and everything that's, like I said, a lot of the plaques, a lot of the monuments say that he was born in, I think it's 1676. But when he came back, he had a report to, I guess, a government official about what happened with the straddling and that whole crew, but what happened with that. And during that, he had to give a disposition. Obviously, you got to identify yourself. Identify yourself! So that's what he did. He identified himself as Alexander Selkirk. And really, I was looking up at how the naming is of his family. Oh man, we thought that we were get like screwed with Brusso and Barty and all these other names and
Yeah,
Selkirk.
I was reading somewhere that
There's like 10 different variations of it.
Selkirk, like
his dad. The document I have is Selkirk. Yeah, John Selkirk.
Yeah,
I'm like,
there's another version of his name. So there you go. Craziness.
You can't make this shit up, folks. This is what happened.
But
this is
if
real.
you made that up, it wouldn't be. What's that?
Oh, for some reason it makes me high. It notifies me of anybody saying anything that may be offensive.
Oh, who's trying to be offensive out there?
Tobin.
Pirate.
He said, "Great show, guys. I don't know what's so offensive about that. I don't know what's so bad about that." After the wrong, what's your name? Right?
Yeah.
After his brain and everything went downhill after running back with a sailor diet. I just thought it was just, I mean, the circumstances of how lucky he was to end up on an island that had mild winters, nothing poisonous. There was no poisonous animals, snakes, spiders, anything on the island. Really, the rats were the biggest issue. And he had food, water, shelter, and
plenty of all that. Really,
it was about the cats.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's the little things like that. Just having those cats there, that if he hadn't had them, imagine how that could have gone with the rats. It could have been really bad.
The whole thing would have been really bad.
They could have ended up killing them. Because, rats carried as well at that time, the plague.
Did they carry the plague at that? Were they carrying plague at that place? I wonder. You don't know if they were brought in so early before.
It probably depend on where they came from. So where the rats came from.
They've been there.
They had been there.
That's where I'm thinking is that they were there for a lot longer.
And as far as I know, the rats weren't actually the problem. It was the fleas that the rats.
It was
carried.
The fleas. The Black Plague was the early 1500s, and then you had the other sickness that hit London in 1666, around the same time as the fire. We were talking about that with Captain Morgan. But that's all talking about the Atlantic Ocean. We're talking Pacific. Yeah. So you had a lot less interaction with people. I mean, if you're talking in 4.5 years that he was on that island, was when they were there with Stradling's crew, and then the 2 times with the Spanish ships, and then with Woodes Rogers in 4.5 years, 4 visits.
Yeah.
So it's just unlikely. The circumstances. It's just pretty amazing.
Yeah, but it's crazy.
And then coming back and dying from yellow fever. But Edward Cook. Captain John Cook, not the one who circumnavigated the world. Originally wrote about Selkirk, and really when everybody was reading his journals, they didn't give a rat's ass about anything else he said. They caught that piece of Selkirk and were like really latched onto that, the gossip. It's nothing different than nothing different with today. And
it went viral.
And Woodes Rogers expanding on it, which drew the attention of other people, which is what we were going to talk about next week. Because Alexander Selkirk
was the inspiration for Robinson Crusoe
by Daniel Defoe.
Now, there's a caveat there that they mostly believe that that's true. There are other adventures that the author followed that may have been based on different people, but they're pretty sure that his book was
they're pretty confident on that.
The Robinson Crusoe is based on Selkirk.
So next week we're going to talk about Robinson Crusoe, the book. We'll talk about the different versions, who wrote it, the viralness of it all. The viralness.
The viralness?
The viralness.
You just made a board.
I did make a board.
The virality?
The virality.
The virulent?
It's going to go viral. The book went viral. We'll talk about why. We'll also kind of do a recap of Polar Plunge. Again, we're going to be at Polar Plunge this weekend. So
we'll be able to talk about what actually happened.
Yeah. As we freeze our ever-loving butts off. And next week we'll be halfway through the season. Jeez, I can't believe we're already like episode 5, episode 6. Thank you to everybody who's been joining us. Those guys who did join us last week for the giveaway. I did put those stickers in the mail. Bobo, yours is with me. I'll give it to you this weekend when I see you, because she was one of the ones who gave me every number. Because she was.
Is Glenn still around?
Possibly.
Well, if he is, Glenn, yours is in the mail.
Yeah. We had 3 people who emailed us. So Broadside, Glenn, and Bo, thank you. Stick them on your car with pride. Support Parlay 8. We really appreciate it. I'd say we're good. We want to cut it short a little bit.
A little bit early. Sure. We can do that.
It's
our show.
It's
we
our
can do
show.
Whatever we want.
It's been a hell of a week. This one's ready for bed. I know, it's so unwinding, uneventful. What? Thank you again, everybody, for coming out. We will catch you guys next week. And until that next time, # drink more rum. Be safe, everybody. Stay warm. Because I want to be warm.